what's up, guys? It's the Mago301 here with another Smash Bracket reaction. Oh boy. Normally I say I'm very excited for the episode here, but you know what? Minato, why don't you say how excited you are for the episode?
I'm excited because Castlevania is my fourth favorite video game franchise ever, and Fire Emblem is one of my favorite series by Nintendo.
Yep. So
that's Richter's my favorite Belmont, so I'm looking forward to this. I'm just gonna say right now I'm rooting for and betting on Richter.
I'm also joined by my great friend Zombie. Zombie, introduce yourself.
Hello there. I'm someone who normally gets these right, except for the times I don't. That's the only time I don't.
Valid. All right. Without further ado,
Fire Emblem hero scaling, I think Richter should have this.
Well, I know nothing about either series, so I'm basically going in this just to enjoy a good fight. I'll probably pick someone to root for by the end of this, but I just want to see all the cards on the table. Zombie, I imagine you're the same?
I'm rooting for Ike. I feel like I think he's got this in the bag, this Ike.
Okay. Well then, without further ado, let's begin!
Who would win in a fight between a fearless vampire slayer and one of the greatest mercenaries to ever live? I'm Ink.
I'm Levi.
And this is Smash Bracket.
Oh, Levi's here,
shit.
shit!
We put every character from Super Smash Bros. Ultimate into a giant animated tournament to figure out who's canonically the most powerful. And one contender for that title is Richter Belmont, the hero of Castlevania. And I know what you're thinking. Richter Belmont? I hardly know her Belmont. Richter is one of the coolest protagonists in the series. Not only does he have a killer intro cutscene, but he just might be the most 80s action hero vampire slayer to ever vampire slay, which for as long as he lived was all he ever knew. He was the descendant in a long line of vampire slayers that stretches back to his great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandpa, Leon.
Gramps put his fiance's soul into a whip called Vampire Killer to fight the scariest man in existence at the time, named Walter. With some kind of weird fusion mumbo-jumbo, from Walter's soul, Dracula was born. The big bad evil guy of Castlevania who was destined to revive every 100 years. While his power seemed insurmountable, it's like Indiana Jones always said, when there's a whip, there's a way. The sacred whip, Vampire Killer, was passed down generation to generation in the Belmont clan for the sole purpose of killing vampires. Well named.
Real fast, I gotta throw in, Leon's legs caught on fire when he kicked things. This isn't important for Richter, I just figured that knowing it would make your life better.
Fascinating.
Aside from that, Belmonts became obsessed with killing vampires. Richter spent his early years studying the arts required to defeat these things. Anywhere from magic, combat, weaponry, and, whatever this is.
What?
During this pivotal time of his life, Richter mastered each and every holy weapon of the Belmont clan. Things like crosses, knives, axes, smoke clouds, and holy water to burn the evil out of people. How one masters the art of water fighting is beyond me, but I'll give it a pass.
This kid is super soaker, easy.
One of his weapons is his pocket watch, which, unlike the one passed down by my grandfather, could stop time. Step it up, Papa.
While his enemies were frozen in time, Richter had free reign to whip his enemies into next week. He could also turn invisible and intangible, and could even muster up the strength to throw a holy book at people, really giving a new meaning to Bible bashing. For the most part, each of these were standard Belmont inventory, but Richter had an ace up his sleeve.
Richter was occasionally called the most powerful Belmont, and it wasn't without reason. Unlike Belmonts before him, Richter could activate an ability called Item Crash.
Item Crash caused each of his weapons to enter a superpowered state where he could do a whole bunch of crazy stuff, like chuck tons of knives at his enemies, summon rain made of holy water, and ignite the Vampire Killer for a powerful blow that also briefly makes him invincible.
How do you whip something hard enough?
I mean, I don't think the holy water is going to help him much against Ike.
Belmont, Ink thinks.
Alright, if I was
fighting
someone who could whip
unless they
something
count the
so
whole
hard
flame
that he
thing,
spontaneously combusts and turns invincible, dude, honestly, I would just go home.
The fire wasn't the only intimidating thing here either. Richter could also whip strong enough to shatter large amounts of crystal. Not only that, but he was fast enough to slap bullets out of the air and outplay incredibly skilled enemies like Dracula himself.
With bullets?
Yeah, apparently.
Speaking of whipping weaponry, this one time when I was 10, I bought a bullwhip at scout camp, and I thought it would look really cool if I tried to whip a throwing knife out of a tree, but rather than looking like the coolest person you ever seen in your whole dang life like I thought I would, it immediately sliced the whip completely apart and destroyed it. So yeah, I've got to say I'm a little jealous of Richter. Dracula must not have even known what hit him. Imagine being the big bad
That's
evil
just a
guy
skill
for
issue, I
centuries,
was
right?
gonna say.
All the power and grandeur and epic monologues, and then one day you're outplayed by a bullet-slapping boy in a headband who can't even legally drink. That's something.
Let's talk about that fight with Dracula, though. Although Belmonts trained their whole lives for the chance to slay a vampire, Dracula's terror was sporadic enough that not all Belmonts got the chance to fight him. And the ones who do generally have no real warning of when he would rise again, meaning they had to be ready to go at the drop of a whip. But Dracula did always resurrect
Was that
eventually,
Sephiroth?
and he came back stronger each time. While this implies that each Belmont also gets stronger with each generation, that doesn't make it an easy fight.
Especially when you consider that Richter was only a teenager when the call to action came. When I was 19, I was impressed with myself for working at Dairy Queen and Papa John's at the same time, but Richter's over here showing off by killing vampires, getting engaged,
The HUD is
and
better.
moonwalking. A power reserved for only the fiercest of warriors, like the Belmonts and, Michael Jackson.
When the call to action did come, Richter immediately leapt into battle and fought off death itself. Not only so that he could kill Dracula, which he had trained for his entire life, but also to rescue his fiancée, Annette, who Dracula had kidnapped.
You know, if I kept getting murdered to death by the same bloodline over and over, I'd probably stray away from kidnapping their one true love. Richter fought as bravely as he could, but in some timelines he was too late. His love had been turned from Annette into a vampire. Left with no other option, Richter was forced to fight for his
To
life.
some people, that'd be
With
a
his back
bonus.
against the wall, he was forced to kill the only woman he ever loved.
Let's be honest.
Good to know.
If a bloodthirsty vampire trying to kill you, I don't see that as much
Richter
of a
forced
bonus.
himself to calm down and focus on what mattered most for the greater good, slaying Dracula.
It didn't take long before Richter found the Vampire Lord and battled him in a showdown to the death. His 19 years of training and hard work were finally put to the test, and in the end, Richter came out the victor. But in the wake of his victory, he realized he had nothing left to live for. He had killed his fiancée and at the age of 19 already accomplished what he had been training his whole life for. His actions gave the world peace but robbed him of purpose, and it felt as if nothing mattered. As if he didn't matter.
He spent years thinking back to the glory days when Dracula still lived and he had love and purpose in his life. Unfortunately, feelings like this attract evil wizards like flies to honey, and eventually, an evil magician named Shaft discovered Richter's plight.
Imagine the struggle this man must have gone through to be an intimidating evil bad guy when his name was Shaft.
I mean, maybe, but he more than earned his name by completely shafting Richter's life. Shaft noticed that these dark feelings within Richter were slowly eating away at his sanity. While he'd once been a pillar of justice, he now wanted nothing more than something to fight for, anything to fight for. So Shaft took these dark feelings and amplified them so much that Richter became what he used to hate most, a servant of darkness. And in a frenzy of despair, Richter sought to revive Dracula himself so that they could continue to fight for all eternity, reliving his glory days over and over and giving Richter something to live for once more. But when he was put to a stop by some old allies, he realized where he actually was in his life.
He had lost nearly
That's a
everything
dark
he
place.
loved, but that didn't mean he had nothing
Damn.
left to give. His situation wasn't unique. Every Belmont spent their life training to become a slayer of vampires.
I will say,
And
we're
those
getting
who
a
never
lot
had
of,
the chance to fight Dracula lived empty
like, a
lives.
lot of story, and I do
Their family
appreciate
knew
it, but
nothing about
I'm not
finance
seeing
and lost
durability
their
of strength,
So Richter
a lot of
decided to break the
durability
chain of
feats. Like,
despair
we've gone
and give the
bullet
world
timing
a
and
family.
crystal
The
shattering.
Morris clan
Rick,
via
I know
Jonathan
I
Rhodes.
mentioned earlier.
Breaking
I'm
the
pretty
family
sure
bloodline's
Richter's like
claim over the whip was like
low
the biggest no-no that
universal,
Belmont could have
arguably
done.
low
But Richter was
multiverse.
tired of his family being.
Yeah, I'm not getting that much of an impression right now.
So Richter betrayed his family
Alucard
so that their
states
future
that
may be brighter.
But
Dracula's
he
realm
didn't leave the
is,
whip entirely.
I mean,
Belmont
Dracula's
free. That
castle
would be
is
too
an
simple.
entire
The
entity
whip
of
held a
chaos.
part of his essence within.
And Dracula's
in
had
order
two
to
castles
wield
up
it,
at
an individual
once.
had to be
So-
worthy
Yeah.
and powerful enough to defeat Richter.
That's where the low multi thing
And
comes
while
from.
Jonathan
Like,
Morris did eventually
two
beat
entire
Richter,
universes at
Richter's
once.
determination to test those who wielded the whip
Yeah.
only cemented how he'd be remembered. One of the greatest Belmonts of all time, who didn't just slay vampires, but also beat his inner demons and gave every last part of himself so that his family could be protected and the Belmonts might live a life of peace at last. Fire Emblem is
Okay.
no stranger to tragedy. It's a series that doesn't
Let's see
hold
what Ike's
punches
got.
and anyone can die at any minute. But through the wild twists and turns of Fire Emblem, one scrappy swordsman stands unique among the rest. Someone who
This
isn't
scene
afraid
was
to
so
speak
hype
his
in
mind,
subspace.
do what's right and look tragedy
Yeah.
in the face, only to rise above it and ascend to new heights.
Meet Ike, a teenager who was born in the land of Gallia, alongside his sister Mist and his father, a legendary hero named Greel.
Ike grew up alongside his father's group of sellswords, the Grail Mercenaries, and joined their ranks at the age of 17. He may have been a minor, but he was a major threat on the battlefield.
As the son of a legendary mercenary, Ike had trained his whole life in swordplay. Though he was admittedly inexperienced, Ike worked as hard as he possibly could to live up to his father's reputation. He trained with Greel each day in tireless battle to become as strong as he possibly could, and he applied that experience to his combat as a mercenary.
And that's the kind of power that can only come from hard work, raw talent, and lots of meat.
What kind of supplements do you use to get such muscle definition?
I eat meat.
Alright, to hell with fruit and veggies then. Anyways, despite the land being at war,
Nice.
the group lived their lives as swords for hire, assisting whomever would pay their fees and staying politically neutral. That is, until they accidentally rescued a princess named Valencia who was on the run from soldiers, thinking she was a random villager.
Alright, pro tip for Grail and his mercenaries: if someone in Fire Emblem is wearing an ornate dress and has green hair, there's a pretty good chance that they're important. That said, they couldn't bring
Fascinating.
themselves to turn her back over to those who were chasing her, so they were left with no choice but to lead her to safety. While the Grail mercenaries were now politically involved, they kept their same high spirits and followed their leader with the utmost loyalty. Until everything changed.
It was a dark and stormy night when Ike's father disappeared into the woods. Ike noticed his departure and followed him through the thicket, but when he caught up to Greel, he found him locked in a fierce battle with a mysterious warrior clad in black armor. But Ike's father was a war hero. As far as Ike was concerned, nobody could beat him in a fight.
Which was a fantasy that did not age well. Grail's power gave out and the Black Knight's sword stabbed him through the chest, killing him in front of Ike and paralyzing Ike with fear. Ike tried to fight back, but was completely powerless to do anything against the man who had just murdered his father. All of his training and all of his hard work wasn't enough in the end to save one of the people he loved most in the world. And it wasn't really enough to save himself either.
As the Black Knight prepared to finish him off, Ike realized all of his strength had been for nothing. Fortunately, he was saved by a Deus Ex Tiger Man who roared, scaring the knight off. It makes sense in the context of the story, I promise.
Tigers aside, there was nothing that Ike could do to bring back his father. In his dying breath, Grail implored Ike to take care of his sister and become the new leader of the Grail mercenaries. A fact that the mercenaries did not take well, or at least some of them.
Many of the mercenaries were skeptical, and a few walked out of the group entirely. But Ike did not back down from the challenge. He may have been inexperienced, but that didn't stop him from putting every last ounce of courage into his new calling. Not only was it what his father would have wanted, Ike knew that it also had to be the right thing to do.
Ike led his militia through the kingdom, discovering a race of shapeshifters called Lagoos along the way. This is where the scary Tiger Man came from. They, as a species, were heavily discriminated against in the land, but Ike never cared about that. He saw them as equals and treated them the exact same way he would treat anyone else, and that's one of Ike's defining character traits.
He doesn't care who you are, Lagoos or nobility. He will treat you plainly and tell you exactly what he thinks. If you are a good person, he will treat
There's
you
a
well.
regular
If
show
you aren't,
joke to be made
he isn't
there.
likely to treat you with respect.
Yeah.
He doesn't care about status or titles.
I'm better
Heck,
than
when he
that,
was
though.
given nobility by a kingdom that his
I'm
troops went on to
just
help,
trying to think of
Ike
one that
was
would be
pretty
funny.
against the whole idea. He eventually rejected the nobility entirely, preferring to rough it on his own, but for now he'd play along if that's what it took to find the evil king behind the war and put an end to him.
Ike had the legend of his father to live up to, and he didn't disappoint. He led his mercenaries through dozens of battles to reach the king. Through all of the political intrigue and warfare, one thing never left Ike's mind. The Black Knight that killed his father was still out there.
And as fate would have it, when he was journeying to save the kingdom, he came across the Black Knight. With his sword in hand and his sister by his side, he fought fearlessly against his father's killer in an epic duel, and was just able to squeeze out a win. The strength that he gained along the way allowed him to not only physically overcome the Black Knight, but it was also a symbolic affirmation to Ike that he'd finally reached the level of power that his father fought at, and he was finally worthy to call himself leader of the Grail mercenaries. This victory was in part thanks to Ike's legendary blade, Ragnall. This weapon's been infused with the essence of a goddess, which gave Ike the power of blue flames, allowing Ike to strike foes from a distance with his sword. With the Black Knight out of the way, only one battle remained, a face-off with the Mad King Ashnard. In a fierce battle, Ike was able to defeat the king and win the war, bringing peace to the land.
In the wake of the war, Princess Valencia became queen, and Ike lived his life as a noble, but not for long. He found that he didn't care for the politics and slyness of nobility, and resigned from his noble status, choosing to return to the life of a mercenary. Before returning a few years later to kill a goddess and wander into the wilderness where nobody would ever see him again, But
As you
that's
do.
a different story.
Ike wasn't just a straight-shooting, good-hearted hero, though. He's also repeatedly been called the strongest hero in Fire Emblem, which is really saying something in a world where people can topple massive buildings with almost no effort. And Ike goes beyond that with his strength and durability.
Yeah, he's insane. He can shrug off attacks from giant meteors being ripped from space and slammed into him. Not only that, he can one-shot enemies that can withstand that same amount of force.
By looking at the size and speed of this meteor, we can calculate that it would be hitting Ike with about 63 terajoules per centimeter squared of force. That's like the power of the little boy nuclear bomb behind each of Ike's attacks.
And he's fast too. He can block arrows so fast that time seems to completely stop by comparison, and he can dodge meteors pulled down from space. These feats would require him to be capable of moving at speeds up to Mach 5,830.
And
I think
just like
Richter's
any
dead,
fighter
guys.
character, he's got a bunch of skills.
What I'm hearing,
I'm gonna
For
go
example,
with
he can
Richter
deflect incoming
dies.
attacks to reduce their damage by 80%, and he can also return any damage taken with counter and distant counter.
We got the
Frenzy,
Fire
he can
Emblem
also
skills
reduce the
now.
damage taken by a proportional amount to any speed advantage he may have, capped at 40% speed reduction.
Especially
Which,
since,
given that
like,
he's moving nearly
that
6,000
whole
times the
statement I
speed of
mentioned about
sound, means that he's going to have that advantage pretty damn
entire
often.
castle
He
being
can
like
also
around
poison
town.
his opponents with each
That
strike,
comes
disable
from
his enemy's
Symphony
skills,
Unite,
stop
one of
his
the games
enemies
Richter
from
is
healing,
in.
and invert all stat boosts his enemy may have
So-
had, turning what would have been an advantage into a disadvantage.
And this is all without mentioning his ability to stop most enemies from ever approaching him with the skill Obstruct. He can also survive otherwise lethal attacks with Miracle, boost his damage by 150%, regenerate health with Renewal, or use his signature abilities, Ether and Radiant Ether.
Ether allows Ike to heal 50% of the damage he deals, but more importantly, it negates his opponent's durability, attacking them as if they had no defense at all.
But all of these abilities and stats aren't what make Ike so special. Ike sees the best in everyone, regardless of who they are or where they came from. He started as a young teenager completely out of his element and forced into a position of leadership that, frankly, he wasn't ready for. He had almost no experience, but despite the discomfort of this, and despite the lack of belief from even close friends, and despite actively grieving his father, Ike wasn't afraid to step up and face the challenge. He knew what was right, and he knew that he'd fight for good. He knew what he had to protect, and no matter how daunting the task before him seemed, Ike would never stop fighting for his friends.
But now it's time to get into the fight and find out who will advance on to the next round of the Smash Bracket
I'm rooting
and who
for
will be
Richter.
eliminated.
Okay, so I'm betting on Ike.
I'm gonna be honest with you too. I started off, betting on Ike because he's the only one I really knew. I have no idea who Richter is, and but seeing what Richter has, I'm doubling down on Ike winning. Richter is getting ran out the building. He's actually gonna get cooked. Like 6,000, like 5,000 times the speed of sound at one point. Like, come on.
What if they pull a Guts versus Dimitri where they just keep Richter's attack potency in the dark on purpose just so they can be like, oh, actually.
So, Minato, you're betting on Richter. Zombie and I are betting on Ike.
I'm believing in Richter to the bitter end and then some.
All right, you all ready?
Yes.
Let's get into this then. Oh, 3D, let's go.
Oh shit!
You don't belong in this world, monster!
Die, monster! You don't belong in this world!
Thanks for the assist. Thought he had me there. The name's Ike.
Richter Belmont, but no need to thank me. I've been meaning to deal with death for weeks.
You have my thanks, but actually, I'm here on my own accord. I've been sent to take this castle on behalf of my...
This castle isn't yours to take.
I wasn't asking.
Only two sorts seek out this place of their own will. The Belmonts, or those who would do us harm. And you are no Belmont! Have it!
How about
All
you?
right then.
I believe in the Fire Emblem W.
Kick his ass, Richter!
The big question is, does this end in death or not?
What kind of power?
Don't forfeit your life over some building. Simply vacate the castle
No!
and...
Your strength betrays your human mask, demon!
Man.
Show me your true form!
Throw the book at him!
So we're just going to, like, do nothing? Yep. Yeah, all his holy magic just really does nothing here.
Relinquish your human puppet, monster! By the flames of God! Be gone!
That's just gonna do nothing. Or, wait, no, that's his flames. I'm pretty sure that's Ike's flames.
I'm not the demon you think me to be, but I'm willing to become one to protect my friends. Last chance. Stand down!
It's not that simple. If I were to stand aside, there would be nothing stopping the triumph of wickedness and evil.
Time stop.
Wait!
There are some fates worse than death.
But he has the attacks that can nullify it. He can turn that on people.
You're
On,
wrong.
Richter!
Good. Evil. It's not something you are. It's something you choose each day. And I fight for good.
You sound like someone I once knew. She believed that the brightest light would always shine through in the end. Let's prove her right.
Red Cross!
Alright!
And cross!
Nope, that's it.
Damn.
This castle will be protected. Rest well, Richter Belmont.
And there you
I call
go.
bullshit!
Before we go further, I just want to give a huge shout out to Roundtable Animation for that incredible Ike versus Richter fight. It's not
The
easy to animate
animation
the
was
physics
cool, but
of
I
a
still
metal
call
chain
bullshit.
whip, so Cliff,
I
if you're
still- I
watching,
think Richter
thanks for
was
all you
robbed.
do for us.
In some ways, this was a close fight, but in other ways, it was a complete stomp of a matchup.
Well, it was a stomp, but
Let's see
Richter
what they have
was
to
still
say.
imposing when taken in isolation. Let's start with speed. If we are extremely generous and say that these bullets are moving at the same speed of real-life bullets, we've got Richter whipping at about 3.2 times the speed of sound.
Which sounds impressive until you realize that even with this bullet feat, Ike is moving over 1,800 times faster than that. And Ike is also hitting with enough power to kill Richter in a single shot. But honestly, we have one guy hitting with the power of a nuclear bomb, and another guy breaking a glorified rock. Heck, that's not even the only time Ike's done something like that, either. Rest in peace, Weird Castle.
It's not like Richter was helpless, though. Richter could theoretically stop time, which would give him more than enough time to land some solid attacks.
I mean, he's a little helpless. Even if we assume that Ike's abilities wouldn't work when time is frozen, Richter could whip away to his heart's content, but not even come close to the amount of hits required to kill Ike. And when he's not frozen, Ike's counter and distant counter abilities are also devastating for Richter. Each attack would also be attacking Richter himself, and it would only take a few of these for Richter to kill himself in a fight. If we assume that Ike's abilities are always active as a passive thing, Ike could be asleep for the entire fight and still easily take the win.
Unconscious
assuming
Ike
Ike's skills
sweet.
work when he's sleeping would be way too generous, but unfortunately for Richter, he is going up against a far faster opponent who wouldn't hesitate to kill him in an instant if given the opportunity. Ike isn't super likely to even let Richter reach for one of his weapons. Even without his skills, Ike's stats and training are more than enough to secure a win here. But with his deadly skills added in, this just isn't even close.
At the end of the day, Ike is the winner and will be moving on to the next round of the Smash Bracket. Next
All right,
time on the
who's
Smash
next?
Bracket.
Mario vs. Mega Man. Mario vs. Mega Man. Oh. Luigi! Wait, who's he fighting again? I forgot. Oh. We got the other Belmont now.
What?
Wait.
Oh, shit!
Let's go! I've been waiting for this for years!
Oh wow.
I've been waiting for that! Oh my, let's go!
I don't at all agree with the verdict, but it was a pretty good fight.
Like hearing, but I only picked Ike because I just knew him from like the Smash games. I barely know who Richter Belmont is. But like when you put it like that, like again, 18 times like 1,000 times faster than a Richter can literally like deal damage like nukes.
You could make
It's
a case for Ike being faster, but it wouldn't really matter much since Richter's durability is just so much higher. He doesn't really have any hacks to capitalize on it.
the power of a nuke kind of helps out though.
Yeah. Plus, not to mention literally all of his counters, and he can just heal himself.
One, possibly two universes.
But yeah, I was
There's
I'm
still
very
kind of a massive gap there.
well. All I know is that, like I said in the beginning, I'm right until I'm not right. Until I'm not. But today I was right with Ike.
You
Hey, Zombie! I just realized.
Would win.
Zombie,
Though
this is
I'm
the first time we're
still
sharing a
not convinced.
W.
Oh yeah, normally it's either we both lose or you just lose.
Yep.
So it's nice. It's nice to see a dub.
Exactly. But about those next times, Luigi versus Simon and Gengar versus King Boo.
Okay, this is the one. This time I'm actually rooting for Luigi to win. I don't know if he's. I mean, given they gave Richter barely anything, Luigi's probably going to win against Simon. But
Is Simon stronger than Richter?
Richter's way stronger than Simon.
All right. Well, okay. That's the start. But is Luigi stronger than Ike? That's as well. That's the only thing as well.
I mean, Mario stats can get pretty cracked at times, especially in the Mario and Luigi games. So
Yeah. Listen, I'm just saying, Luigi, the L on his hat is going to be fitting because he's going to hand Simon that L.
Yeah, I'm all team Luigi there.
I'm gonna root for Luigi regardless for who I think wins.
As for King Boo versus Gengar, I believe in a Gengar society, baby. I'm all in on Pokemon.
Have you guys ever seen that one video by Bumbles McFumbles, which Pokemon is the worst pet?
No.
Gengar has to be up there.
It's actually a really funny video. He actually based some criteria to figure out which Pokemon would be the worst pet. Gengar was number 2 on the worst list.
What was number 1?
Hypno.
Oh,
fair enough.
That
was fun.
He said because Gengar looks or will actively stalk humans to kill them. It's not only one that puts your life in danger. It's one of the only Pokemon he gave a -10 in the safety score because it would actively hunt you down. He literally He even said that the one thing keeping it from number 1 is technically it's a 5 out of 5 in terms of housing because he's already in your house. So yeah, don't adopt a Gengar. Adopt a Pokemon that can protect you from Gengar.
Noted. I will noted. All right, but yes, that will do it. That will do it
It's a
for this
very funny
episode.
video. I'll send it to you guys in DMs because I really like it.
All right,
Your
but yeah,
favorite
that'll do
line
it for this.
Is you're adopting a pet, not losing a child in divorce court.
All right, but that will do.
Make sense when you watch the video.
I've tried to do my outro 3 times now.
But hold on, though. But we don't want the video to end.
Sorry for ruining that.
All right, can I go now?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah,
My
I guess.
closing
Fine,
words
why
are:
not?
please let Gojo win against Makima. Not only because it's the morally correct answer, but also because I really don't want to have a losing streak on this channel.
All right, that'll do it for this episode. Zombie, Minato, thank you again so much for joining me. I had a blast watching this with you guys.
It was pretty cool. The animation was really sweet.
Absolutely. And we get to end with a W. Sorry, Minato.
I'm not sorry.
All right, I will see you all in the next video. See ya!